It is going to be the Pacers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 1-seed 68-win team winning the Western Conference in Oklahoma City, and then the 4-seed, the Indiana Pacers coming out of the East. That will be tipping off later on this week on Thursday night, and the man calling the finals, kind enough to join us in advance of his 20th finals of his career, extending his record for calling the most finals ever, is the Emmy Award-winning Mike Breen. Good to see you, Mike. How are you, sir?
Good, Rich. You got a little Hollywood theme today.
You know what, Mike? I just, it just that's the way it's worked out, and I consider you Hollywood, Mike. I consider you.
One of my favorite guests that you've had on is Kevin Pollak.
Okay, I love it.
That guy, he's so good at storytelling and his impression. I love that guy on the show.
I love it. Thank you, and I'm sure he'll love to hear that because he's a sports fan. And I mean, you're surrounded by celebrities every single time you call anything in Madison Square Garden, Mike. My goodness, you're everywhere.
Yeah, it was unprecedented in this past season too. They were everywhere. And you know what the beauty of it though, for so many of them, they're real fans. They're not just showing up at the big games. Like there's about 10 to 15 of them. They're at a game in November against the Wizards. I mean, they really show up all the time. Ben Stiller is obviously a crazy fan. Timothée Chalamet, Steven Schripper. Those guys, they're legitimate fans. They're just not wannabes.
I love it. And but they're not going to the NBA Finals. That we know, unless they really want to, I guess either put on a white shirt or a yellow shirt, and get things going for a fan base that they're not part of. I'll just want to ask you first things up, Mike. You saw the Oklahoma City Thunder in person. What's their secret sauce, Mike?
Defense. It's one of the best defenses I've seen since I've covered the NBA, from a standpoint of team defense and individual defenders. I said this on the last telecast. Most NBA teams will have maybe 2, sometimes 3, what you would call either elite defenders or top-notch defenders or candidates for NBA All-Defense. They have like 8. It's unbelievable. And 4 of them are in the starting lineup. And their commitment to defense, what happens is so many of them are good on defense, and they've such a standard that everybody has to pull their own weight. You don't want to be the one guy on that team that's not pulling his weight defensively, and that's not giving everything he has defensively. The peer pressure on that team to play at a high defensive level because they all take such joy in it, and so many are good. I've never seen anything like it.
And, obviously the MVP of the NBA will be featured at the home team. Oklahoma City Thunder are all about what SGA has put out there for sure. What's your opinion on the free throw merchant conversation, Mike?
I think it's ridiculous. And I think it's part of the narrative to talk about it, but we've seen this for years and years and years. Great players know how to get to the free throw line. It's a part of the game. It's a skill, and he's using it to his advantage, and it's obviously working. And he even made a point a couple of weeks ago when we sat down with him. A couple of years ago, when they weren't a good team, they won like 40 games. They were in the play-in. He averaged 2 free throws more per game that season than he did this year. Go back and look at some of the free throws of some of the great players in the playoffs, whether it's Michael Jordan or anybody else. They shot more free throws than he's getting to the line. So, I understand sometimes the moves can be frustrating for a defender, but that's all part of being clever and savvy and getting to the free throw line. And it's also up to the officials to make sure they don't call ones where does he put his arm underneath the defender's arm? Sure, sometimes that happens. But I think it's crazy to look at it as a negative for him because he's just doing anything and everything he can to win a game for his team.
Yeah, maybe it's just because he hasn't been on a national stage like this before, or there are some who thought Jokic really was the MVP of the league, or anybody else that wasn't maybe familiar with his game getting the calls that one would think somebody who's done it year in and year out deserves. Maybe that's part of the conversation, Mike. I don't know.
Well, when any team is the best team and everybody has to, beat them, and not just players, but obviously opposing fans, you're going to take shots. Nobody took shots at them 2 years ago when they were a play-in team, but now because they're the team to beat, now it's one way to try and attack them. But he doesn't care about that stuff. He is such a poised young man. I'm so impressed how he carries himself. He's not trying to draw attention to himself in terms of, under the radar MVP, in terms of his personality. He's nothing flashy. He's not a showboat. He's just a great skilled basketball player who is also an unbelievable leader. Jokic is like that too. Jokic is not flashy. He doesn't care for any of the attention. It's like the Tim Duncan syndrome, where these guys, they just want to play basketball. They want to play with their teammates and they want to win games. I love guys like that.
Well, I listen. I'm going to go off the beaten path here before we talk about the matchup with you, Mike, because I know calling NFL games, we have meetings with coaches and star players before each game. How much access do you guys get to those, to SGA or Haliburton, or just for the finals, or either coach, Mike? How often do you get to chat with them?
Rich, during the playoffs, it's good again. They bring in players all the time. It used to be every national game you would get players to come in and sit down. Obviously, the pandemic changed everything. We weren't getting guys to come in. And unfortunately, it hasn't gotten back to that yet, because I do think it's a great insight. You get to really understand the players, get to know them, get to hear stories about their background. And there's great stuff that's written all the time about it. And there's still access. I wish there was more. Fortunately, during the playoffs and especially during the finals, we get a lot more access than during the regular season. But I think it's important for us because, we're supposed to document who these players are. We're supposed to tell their stories. And it's so much easier when you get to sit down with them and have these back and forths, and you find out, I've said this over and over again, there are so many incredible young men playing in this league. And every time you meet someone, you wind up walking out of the room saying, wow, that guy is so impressive. And SGA is one of those. There's so many like that. So I always like to have as much access as possible. I wish we had a little bit more, but it does get better in the playoffs.
Mike Breen here on the Rich Eisen Show. The matchup that you're most looking forward to seeing in the NBA Finals is what, Mike?
Individual matchup is hard. I just think you have this entertaining Pacers team that loves to run up and down the floor. There's so many possessions they have where four different guys will touch the ball, and only one of them will actually put the ball on the floor. The ball really moves, and that's the type of offense that you have to play against an elite defense like OKC. I mean, OKC, they're the definition of smothering, suffocating, and Indiana's a team with ball movement that might be able to deal with that. So it's the overall Indiana offense against the OKC defense. There are some nights where I've watched OKC where if you're watching how they seem to double everybody, it almost feels like they have six players on the floor. That's how good they are. And Indiana with their ball movement might test that. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
What's your insight on Carlisle? He's fascinating to me, Mike, and he's been around, he's been there, he's done that. This is a potential career capstone for him, former player, coach around the league here, and he seems to be hitting every button right now. He's in a zone, it feels like to me right now.
Rich, he's super smart, and he obviously loves the game. What I like about him, he never comes across like he knows all the answers, and he knows sometimes he's got to make some changes, and he's not afraid to change, and he's not afraid to try different things. And the players really respond to that. And I think him coaching this team, and it's like this throughout the league, if you leave a coach in place, continuity is the most underrated part of success in all of sports, but for me, especially, watching the NBA. So he knows the nuances of his players now. He's been with them now for several years. They know each other so well. And I think he's another one of those guys that he gives great confidence to the players that he coaches. And any big time player will tell you, That has been a huge part of their success and a huge part of their growth. When a coach has confidence in you, when you're going out on the floor and you know if you make a mistake, he's okay with it because he knows it's coming from a good place. And Carlisle does that. He instills confidence into his players.
And, the other coach has got quite a story too, Mike. I mean, Holy Cross assistant, a G League guy, and now he can be hoisting the Larry O.B.? Mike, I'll give you the floor on the coach of the year here, Mike.
Yeah, I'm to use again. It's just super smart. His mind works in so many different ways. Players respond to him. Same thing. Not afraid to play 9-10 guys, knowing that playing a 10th guy at this point in the season might pay dividends down the road. But he also listens to the players and allows them to give them a lot of input in terms of what he wants to try. But his story is unbelievable. And I think Sam Presti deserves a lot of credit. So Presti has him, and he decides to give him the G League job and have him coach there for 5 years. It's like a player. So you want a player every year to get a little better. He wanted Mark Daigneault to get a little better. And then when it was time, he had 5 years of making all the decisions in the G League, which is a hard league to coach, because there are all sorts of intangibles thrown at you day in and day out. And he was able to do that and come on. And he right now, he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. And I think his age factor and the age factor of the players, there's great connection with them. They absolutely love him as well. And, right now, the guy, coach of the year already once, might be an NBA championship coach this year. It's an incredible story.
Before I let you go, a few minutes left here with Mike Breen calling his 20th NBA Finals. I would love to get your thoughts on the Knicks, if you're willing to cough them up, Mike. You've seen a ton of Knicks games, obviously. So lots of talk now about what happened, what to do next. Do you have an opinion on that front, Mike?
Of course. They had a great year, but it just ended in such disappointment because I know they felt that they could have advanced to the finals and perhaps even win a title. It would have been hard against Oklahoma City, but they had a great year. And you can look back what they did in the first round against Detroit. I thought they really grew in that series against a really terrific young Detroit team. Then to beat Boston, and I know Tatum got hurt at the end, but those two victories in Boston, down 20 on the road in that arena, those are two of the great playoff victories of all time. And then to beat the Celtics in a Game 6 by like 38, great progress that they made. That Game 1, it will haunt them all summer. When you're up 14, 3 minutes to go, you got to put that one away. That completely changed, and the Pacers deserve all the credit for not quitting that night. They could have thrown in the towel then, so they deserve all the credit. But the Knicks had a great year, and this silly talk about, do they think about changing coaches? What Tom Thibodeau has done there to turn things around, Leon Rose, what he's brought in, and the players, it goes back to what I say a little bit earlier. Continuity, Rich, is huge. You brought in 2 new starters this year that had to kind of play different roles than they've had with their previous teams. These things take time. They're basically, they're 2 wins away from making the NBA Finals, and everybody's talking about, we're going to make major changes. No, they've got to tweak, they've got to improve, but a lot of that comes from within, and they're one of the best teams in the NBA, and they'll only be better next year, in my opinion, because of that continuity factor. Brunson and Towns will be better at playing with each other same time on the floor. Mikal Bridges will be better in terms of knowing his role. So I think, patience is not a word you use in sports much anymore, but you still need some patience. They had a great year, and they think they can be better next year with some tweaks.
New Yorker to New Yorker question here, Mike. What would it take to get fans in Madison Square Garden to wear all the same colored shirts like they do in Oklahoma City and Indiana, Mike?
Answer the hell. There's no. You have to think about, especially down below, near courtside, the amount of time that they put into deciding what they're going to wear to Madison Square is. I'm going to say for some, it's probably hours trying on different outfits, what works well, and you're going to ask them to put on a T-shirt. There's no way that. No way.
Yeah, right. Look at that. Like, good luck telling Spike and Chalamet, please put on this orange T-shirt. You know what I mean?
It's just no. That's something that will never happen.
But it's just, obviously different parts of our country, just different ways of showing your zeal and fandom, and both fan bases, I'm sure, are lit for these finals, Mike. And this is my final question for you. It's your 20th, and I'm just wondering, do you have a favorite NBA finals that you called? And if so, what is it? What do you have?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard to pick one. Obviously in 2016, coming back from 3-1 down in Cleveland to win that, and LeBron James to win it for his city in Cleveland was amazing. I love the ones like Milwaukee winning their first championship in 2021 because of what it meant to the city, what it meant to the fans. The Toronto championship was off the charts in 2019. Any game 7-1 Boston Lakers in 2010. I also, when San Antonio came back and won against Miami in 5 games, I thought that was the best team basketball I think I've ever seen play. It wasn't a series, wasn't a dramatic series, but what the Spurs did in that series was basketball at its absolute most beautiful. So as you can tell, I can't pick one. There's a whole bunch of them, and it's always an honor to be able to sit there and call them. I still can't believe I've been able to do it this long. 20. I guess now I'm going to hopefully have you indulge me for one last one. You mentioned the Spurs and how that's the greatest team basketball you've seen from that particular NBA champion. With the news that Gregg Popovich is no longer going to coach in this league, I need your favorite Gregg Popovich story, Mike. Whether it's during a game, after a game, a dinner that you've been able to maybe have with him. What's your favorite Gregg Popovich story, Mike Breen? I'll give you 2 quickly.
Sure.
I won't take up 2.
No, please.
First one, you've heard about these unbelievable dinners on the road that they all have, and the coaches all have to attend whenever they go on the road, and all the great wine and great food. And every once in a while, they let an outsider come in. And PJ Carlissimo, who's been one of my dearest friends for years, he got me into one of the dinners, and it really is it's special because they talk about everything, not just basketball and the food and it's the best wine I've ever had in my life. But they start every meal with the same thing, and it's a 2-word toast. And the 2-word toast is they all raise their glasses and say, "To Timmy." And that just goes to show you the humility that they all know that if it wasn't for Tim Duncan, they probably wouldn't be having all these wonderful, expensive dinners with all this expensive wine. So that was something that I found just amazing, that was the same toast they do every night. And the other one, Rich, was just happened a couple of years ago because the Spurs hadn't been on national TV very often. Hubie Brown, who I was doing the game with, the Spurs came and played, I think it was his rookie year. They came to the Garden to play the Knicks, and those two hadn't seen each other for a while. And when Pop came into the room to sit down with us, and he saw it was Hubie, those two men hugged. It may have been for 5 full minutes. The respect and love that they had for each other. We were all in the room. We were all crying because you could see these 2 men who've devoted their lives to the game and done it with such integrity. That respect factor was off the charts, and I'll never forget that moment.
Mike, you're the best, man. Congrats on 20 years. Obviously, more to come. And always appreciate when you hop on here and give us your 2 cents. Love listening to you, love watching you, and love having you on. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Rich, and as you can tell, I love the show. So thanks, bud.
You got it. That's Mike Breen, everybody, getting set to call his 20th NBA Finals right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Again, obviously, been watching Mike for a very, very long time, watching Knicks games at home as well, listening to him and Clyde Frazier, and just it's awesome. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.